2 weeks after Pearl Harbor, the radio wouldn't quit talking about it. Every broadcast ended with the same thing. We are at war. I was 21 years old, footloose, and the wandering fire was burning hotter than ever. So, on the 8th of January, 1942, I walked down to the recruiting office in Ponca City, Oklahoma, just to see what they had to say. The sergeant behind the desk looked me over, handed me a stack of forms and said, "Son, if you sign this, you belong to Uncle Sam." I signed, took the tests, raised my right hand, and just like that, I was in the Army of the United States. 5 days later, on the 13th of January, they put me and a whole carload of other boys on a train headed north to Oklahoma City. Most of us had never been that far from home in our lives. We pulled into the station after dark, marched us down the street to a big hotel, and for the first and probably last time in my Army career, they put us up in real beds with clean sheets. I laid there listening to freight trains whistling in the yard and wondering what in the world I had just done. Next morning, the 14th of January, 1942, we were up before daylight. Breakfast in a cafe, then marched over to the examination building. All day long it was stand in this line, strip to your shorts, bend over, cough, turn your head, open your mouth, pound your knees with a little hammer, more tests, more papers. By late afternoon, the doctor stamped the last page and somebody yelled, "You're in the Army now, boys." That evening, they loaded us right back on another train. This one pointed south to Fort Sill. Pulled in the next morning cold and stiff, frost on the windows. They marched us straight to supply. "Stripped to the skin, everything you own goes in this box to be mailed home." They issued us long underwear, wool trousers, wool shirts, overcoats that smelled like mothballs, and those round campaign hats we called Smoky Bears. Those wool uniforms felt warm, all right, but Lord, they made you itch something fierce. For the next week, we scratched till our fingers were raw, and every night in the barracks, you could hear 100 boys scratching in the dark like a pen full of hogs. One evening, I walked over to the post exchange just to look around and kill time. I turned a corner by the candy counter and damn near ran smack into Maurice Minner, the same Maurice I'd worked with at the 101 Ranch in the CCC. We hadn't laid eyes on each other since 1939. We stood there grinning like a couple of fools, shaking hands, talking so fast we sounded like two magpies fighting over the same worm. Spent the whole evening catching up, laughing about old times, wondering what the Army was gonna do with two Kansas and Oklahoma City farm boys. Fort Sill itself was full of ghosts. Every one of them old stone buildings had history soaked into the walls. Down in the old guardhouse, carved right out of solid rock, was the dungeon where they kept Geronimo his last years. Natural rock floor, iron-barred window high up, dark as the inside of a pocket. He stayed there till he went to the happy hunting grounds. Some of his medicine things, a bow, a quiver, a war bonnet he was proud of, were still on display in glass cases up at the museum, polished and cared for like they were made yesterday. I walked past those cases a dozen times, and every time I felt the hair stand up on my neck. Little did I know, the road I was starting down would take me places a whole lot darker than Geronimo's dungeon. But that was still a long ways off. Right then, we were just recruits, green as grass, and the Army had big plans for us. A few days later, they marched us back to the train, loaded us into old Pullman cars, and we started rolling west, past country most of us had never seen, heading for whatever came next.